Evidence, evidence, evidence. I can't state it strongly enough. It is so important when you're building an argument, an essay, that you refer to and use evidence that you've researched. Now let's just do a quick review on the different types of evidence. Two main types: primary, secondary. Primary sources of evidence refer to things like texts, films, pictures, or any other kind of evidence that was produced in the historical period or by someone who participated in the events of that period that you're writing about. Now, the second type of evidence is secondary sources of evidence. When we talk about secondary sources of evidence, we're talking about work by historians or other writers who are analysing the events of the past. Typically, a research essay would need a significant amount of evidence. So your role is actually to go and research that evidence. So the first thing you need to do is find your sources, which can be very difficult if you're writing an essay on a topic like World War I. There are hundreds of resources out there. I'm going to suggest a few tips that are going to help save you a lot of time. First of all, have a look at the text that is actually prescribed for your course. Often you'd be surprised at how many students don't actually go to this text first. So I'm going to suggest go there first, have a look at the sources that are available. Some of those texts have primary sources within them that you can actually use, so don't skip over that. Secondly, have a look at the bibliographies and the footnotes that might be within those texts that can help you narrow your focus a little bit more on where you want to go. Use the library. Once again, you'd be surprised at how many students don't actually go and use the library as a resource. They might spend a lot of time using online sources, which is fine, but the librarians and the library are there for your benefit, so use it. Access online journal databases. Once again, talk to your librarian, they'll help you out. Your teacher will also give you a great heads up on how to access some really good information. And it's all readily available. But I will say this about online sources: please use them with discretion. You've got to make sure that the sources that you are using are credible and they're going to be useful for the essay that you're writing. Just one thing about online sources, and in particular Wikipedia. Now, I like Wikipedia. It's a great, gateway into finding out a little bit more about certain topics. But you've got to be very careful. The nature of Wikipedia is that it's put together by a lot of internet users. So you've got to make sure that the sources that they're using to write up those articles are the good sources. And so make sure you scour the reference lists and the links that they have provided for those articles to make sure that the information you're getting is from the right place. Okay, the next thing you need to do is evaluate your sources, particularly your secondary sources. Some things that I like to question when I'm using secondary sources are things like who is the author, who is the publisher, where is it published. Often if you have a look at publishing details, there might be a reference to a university press, which is a really good sign. Has the article been published in a journal? In particular, online sources, make sure you copy the URL if you're using an online source. Websites that usually end in .gov or .edu are a good start and a good sign, so make sure you can evaluate them well. Right, next thing to do is to read critically. Okay, this is another step that a lot of people tend to want to rush through. I'm suggesting you don't do that. Take your time. Make sure that you don't let your mind drift as you're reading through your sources. Keep your question in mind. The original essay question is always good to keep in mind because it'll help you take the right notes when you're reading these sources. It'll also help you think about what the author is actually saying and what argument they're trying to support with evidence. And last, take thorough notes. I mean it. If you're using sources and you've got really good information or quotes, write more than you think you need, because it's going to be better for you in the long run than having to try and go back through all the books to find that one line that you read that you thought would be really good in your essay. So make sure you get that right. If you use a quote or if you have some notes from a particular book, just quickly write down the reference at the end of it so you know where you've actually got that material from. Include page numbers.